it's not that easy to sell your music in Web3. So not to discourage anyone from trying, but to be realistic with people. And even if you do have some success with it, it's still going to be tough to make a living off of it. We have a long way to go before everybody's buying music NFTs and believing in musicians to have value in their collection.
So what more do you think we need as artists for this to change?
Well, that's tough. I think everyone needs something different. But what I need is...
GM, welcome to GM Good Music, the show that brings you the latest and most exciting developments in the world of music NFTs. I'm your host, Josh Savage, and today we're joining forces with Dill, a very early pioneer in the music NFT arena, from his roots in Philadelphia to his rise in the digital music scene. Dill's story is one of passion, innovation, and determination. Join us as we unravel his journey from a hip-hop enthusiast to a music NFT OG. Dill, GM, thrilled to have you with us. How's it going?
GM. So happy to be here, man. I'm doing good. You know, it's early morning here, just getting the day started up in LA, but happy to chat about music NFTs always.
So you've moved from one coast to the other in the States?
I have, man. I recently moved out here to LA in 2023, and now we're out here trying to bring music NFTs to Hollywood.
Let's go. Would you say NFTs are still very much early in Hollywood as well? Because they're super early in Europe, but I'd say America's a lot more advanced in that area at this stage.
I would say yes, they're super early here too. And just like all forms of crypto and NFTs, the interest has sort of fallen off. Like the peak was probably in 2021, right? So I think regardless of how you look at it, most people that are not in the NFT community are going to think that NFTs have sort of fallen off, or they're not around anymore, or that they're not doing well. I mean, the average person, when I talk about crypto or NFTs at this point, says, "Oh, isn't crypto over or done with?" I mean, and they say that in, full earnest. They don't mean to, talk trash. They're just genuinely following headlines and think it's over, but it's not over.
Yeah, it's so funny. It's like when people start really talking about it, the general public, like for example, when my ex-girlfriend's mother would start talking about buying crypto and NFTs, that's when I would start selling, because that was basically my top indicator. But anyway, Dill, would love to delve more into kind of your early beginnings, how you really got started in the in music before we even delve into the whole Web3 scene. I mean, you were raised in Philadelphia, right? How did you end up getting inspired to passionate about music and then inspired to actually create your own songs?
Sure. Well, I've always loved music since I was a kid. I was always involved in music in school, whether that was chorus and choirs, singing. When I was in middle school, I mean, we're talking like 12, 13 years old, I used to do plays. I used to do acting, shows, musicals. And when I got into high school, I stopped doing that, but I always had an interest in music, and I was always really interested in different types of music. I started out more on like the punk rock alternative wave, Green Day, Simple Plan, all the hits back in the late 90s, early 2000s. And then I started growing up a little bit, got into high school. I started getting into hip hop and rap. At the time, Meek Mill was coming up out of Philly, one of the biggest artists to come out of Philly last couple decades. Rick Ross was, of course, big at the time, Maybach Music. And that's really how I started getting into hip hop. And, Mac Miller was coming up out of the time from Pennsylvania, out of Pittsburgh, Wiz Khalifa. I mean, some of the great artists of our generation in hip hop were coming up at the time. And that's when I started to get interested in rap. But at the time, I didn't make any music. I mean, it wasn't until after high school that I started recording a couple songs for fun. But the early days, it was really just being a kid, enjoying music. and eventually saying, I could rap. I mean, I still remember looking up on YouTube how to freestyle and wondering, can people really freestyle and really rap about something without having any lyrics? And I just remember being a curious kid and trying to learn about this stuff. And it brought me a long way. So, learning from YouTube, learning from the internet, and ultimately just thinking, this is something I think I could do. And
So,
that's how it all started.
so Dil, I love this because this is a completely different universe to me, hip hop and stuff. Um, how do you freestyle? What tips would you give me if I wanted to learn how to freestyle?
Well, it's just practice, man. It's just
Okay.
pure practice. You just start rapping and coming up with words, and it sounds lame at first. And eventually you end up with a framework in your head of how to freestyle, or, certain words that rhyme together.
Right.
You tend to go in patterns or use similar words. But yeah, I mean, as a kid, I was just curious. I just didn't know, is this really possible, or are they faking it? And to bring me where I am now, and I can freestyle and I can rap, and I know a lot more about the industry now. But as a kid, you don't know those answers, right? You don't really
Sure.
know those answers. You don't even know, how does a musician get popular. I mean, as a kid, it's all a big mystery. And I think even as an adult, for most people, the music industry is a big mystery, and that's on purpose. But we can talk about that in another conversation. But yes, the
Yeah,
music industry is mysterious on purpose.
I'd say also it's probably a mystery within the music industry as well, and I guess that's what's so great about Web3, and we'll delve into that, how it builds a lot more transparency. So before you even delved into hip hop, Dil, were you playing the guitar before as well in your punk rock era? Do you still play guitar
I
now?
wish. I wish. I took guitar lessons, but I never practiced, man. So I was shit at the guitar, and I
Fair.
was shit at the piano. And I know now that I would have been great if I practiced. Simple as that.
So why did you practice at hip hop and rapping instead of guitar and piano? What's the difference?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. I would say probably because I like to smoke weed and rap with my friends. But realistically, I didn't feel like you had to practice for hip hop. I guess it didn't feel like practice because you can just go right to creating,
Yeah, it's
right?
fun.
With guitar or piano, you sit there, you play the same thing over and over, and eventually it's going to sound like what you want it to sound like, right? And then you move on to the next work. But at least for me, I didn't see a path where I was immediately creating. So rapping never felt like monotonous practice to me. It always felt like, oh, I'm going to write a song, I'm going to record it. So to me, it didn't feel like the same type of practice. But I would say it also came at a point later in my life, and I was pursuing it just for fun. I mean, at first
Right.
it was just for fun. And I don't know, it just hit me in a different way, where I was just that kid that wouldn't sit down still and practice. I wanted to play video games, I wanted to hang out with my friends. But I think hip hop was probably the perfect bridge, where it was relatable to enough of my friends, and it was fun and entertaining enough for me that I started to work hard on it. But again, it was just for fun. Like when I put out my first songs, I wasn't thinking this is going to be the next hit record that takes over every college in the United States and takes me to this level that I'm at now. I had no idea. So it was for fun at first. It really was.
Yeah, no, epic. And what did your parents do? Were they involved in music in any way? What was their backstory, and how did they influence you in any way?
My parents have zero involvement in the music industry. In most things creative, they weren't super involved. But that being said, I have great parents, great family. They both worked in business, they had solid jobs, good education. I'm blessed to have the opportunities that I had. But it also makes my story a little bit different because my family didn't expect me to do music. I mean, my family sees music as very high risk, which is probably true compared to other things you can
Yeah.
do. I mean, certainly it's better than crime and dealing drugs and stuff like that, but it's high risk, right? And it's tough to make a living out of music. And that's true for me to this day. It's tough. There's times when it's tough to make a living out of music. But it was something I was passionate about. And my parents generally supported whatever I'm passionate about. But there were
Awesome.
times when, they thought I was making the wrong decision or when things got hard. And I didn't have anyone who could sort of guide me creatively or help me out in the music industry whatsoever. I had great parents. They were very supportive. They had no experience in music, no experience in the music industry, no ability to give business guidance on things related to music. So I think that's the case for a lot of musicians, right? But I am blessed to have a wonderful family and parents who took good care of me, and generally a good friend group and good people around me. And that network has helped me out a lot. That's been my support network. So very grateful for all that.
Awesome. So what did guide you if it wasn't if you didn't have anyone from your background guiding you, what was your kind of beacon of hope and what kind of led you to where you are today?
Well, I would just say mostly seeing what's possible that other people do. The internet, YouTube University, man, the internet was my education. Watching other people, working with people that I met in person. But I had to figure out a lot of stuff myself.
Right.
Like I said, the music industry is mysterious. I would say there's a lot of people in the music industry that don't want the artist to know everything. A lot of people want the artist to be sort of helpless and, need the team around them to do everything and just let the artist focus on music.
Yeah.
And I do agree there's some validity to that. Like if the artist can focus on music and you have that luxury to have a team around you doing all the other stuff, good for you. That's great. That probably can lead to, good work from the artists and high capacity output. But then do you end up being one of those top star artists who ends up not understanding their business? 10 years later, they're broke. They don't have a career anymore. They haven't figured out the business ins and outs. So I think for me, it was important to learn the ins and outs of the business because I'm not just a singer, songwriter, rapper. I'm a business guy. I'm an entrepreneur. I always wanted to understand the business. I always wanted to be a part of the business. And I even got screwed over by the major label on my first deal because I didn't understand the business enough. And so I would say a big part of my journey has been realizing how important it is to understand your own business and understand the music industry. And that's affected my life and every decision I've made since being, what I consider to be ripped off by the major labels. It's affected every decision I've made since then. And it's been really important for me to educate myself and become knowledgeable in the music industry and make sure that I put myself in the best position possible to succeed. Because this is a business, I mean, people from the outside looking in, they can say, oh, you get to live your dreams. Oh, you get to express yourself. I've been living my dreams, expressing myself. Guess what? I need the money, man. It's a business. And if you want to make it a long time as an artist, you're going to have to treat it like a business.
Yeah, 100%. And did you have that mindset from the very beginning or not? Or were you just doing it out of the love? Not thinking it? Did you know back then you would be able to still do music today? Did you have that belief or were you just trying it out and then you kind of fell into it by accident?
I would say in somewhere in the back of your mind, you always have that belief, right? In my opinion, for me, when I write a song, part of me is always like, you know what? This is pretty good. This could be big. But I was doing it for fun. I was using an app called Rap Chat at the time where you could rap into your phone, and I was having some success on there. But it was totally for fun. I mean, and also putting out that music, I still try to put it in the best position possible to succeed. I still try to make it as good as possible. I understood when you put stuff out online, it can blow up. Like YouTube had been around for years, Vine had been around. I seen what could happen, but it was still new. At this time, nobody had really made a career off internet music and SoundCloud. Like now we have countless examples of artists who's blown up on the internet. Back then you were talking like Soldier Boy. You know, Soldier Boy kind of was one of these early guys to blow up with like videos on the internet. But back then we were talking like a few people that had blown up on the internet, right? So it was very new at the time, and there was a lot of stuff to learn about. But the simple answer is no. I didn't think that a song I wrote over 10 years ago was going to lead to me now in 2024 still doing music, still putting out stuff. But that was the dream, right? That was a dream, but not something that I considered to be a realistic goal.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. So tell us about at that time where you just started rapping and how that led to you eventually releasing music and your steps after that. Guide me through that.
I still remember being in my college dorm. I went to Tulane University
Where's
and
that?
I was a freshman. Tulane's in New Orleans,
Okay.
Louisiana. So I was a freshman there, you know, living in a new city, New Orleans, for the first time. I had some friends, but it was a time when, like, socially, I was trying to adjust and figure out my friend group. And I remember there were times when I just kind of hung out in my dorm smoking weed and writing music. And nobody really thought anything of it. I don't know. It was kind of strange to be writing music as a freshman in college when you're in business school, and most people in my position were not writing music, right? But it wasn't that weird or anything.
Mm.
But I remember sitting there writing songs, thinking, you know, this could be big. This is good, you know. And I was listening to Drake at the time. Nothing Was the Same, which is still one of my favorite albums. Nothing Was the Same was blowing up at the time, and I was sad with my girlfriend in high school, you know, breaking up, moving to a different city. There were just, you know, a lot of stuff going on in my life. But at the time, that's when I started writing music. And that is where Jordan Belford came from. And I actually went home for winter break and I saw the Wolf of Wall Street movie, which came out on Christmas of 2013, December 25th.
Right.
And by 2014, like beginning of the year, we were in the studio and Wes was showing me some beats he made, which was just for fun. Again, me and my friend Wes Walker, we've been best friends for years at this point. Since middle school is where I originally met him. He was showing me some beats, and one of them was his Jordan Belford beat. And so he played that beat, and I was like, "Wow, this is cool." You know, it sounds kind of fancy and luxury. And so then I was like, "Yeah, I just saw this movie called The Wolf of Wall Street, and I think we should rap about this guy Jordan Belford." And I was thinking of that Rick Ross or Meek Mill. I remember Rick Ross had this song. It's like, "Think I'm Big Meech, Larry Hoover, whipping work." So he had this song. He's just calling out the big criminal, drug lord, whatever, right?
Right.
So I'm like, all right, let's make a song calling out Jordan Belford. So that's where that idea came from.
I was just looking at it. It's got millions upon millions of streams, isn't it? It's got 183 million Spotify streams. And but when you initially released that song, it didn't explode straight away, did it? It took some time, right? How did you release the song? Did you do it independently? Did you do it with a label? And had you released quite a few songs back then? Tell us about that.
So we released it on SoundCloud. And at the time, no label. I had almost no other music out. I mean, maybe a couple other songs. And we just put it on SoundCloud, and it took over a year to blow up. So, you know, fast forward 1 year, the song still hadn't really blow up. It took 1 year and a half to reach 1 million streams.
Wow.
So imagine putting out a song right now. Next winter, still it's nothing much happening. But by the summer of next year, this song starts going to 1 million streams. But you gotta understand too, 1 million streams is a lot, but it doesn't really mean that you have a hit on your hands. So when it first hit to 1 million, we weren't sure, is this going to continue, or is this kind of just a lucky drop in the bucket and it's
Mm.
going to fall off a cliff from here? So when the song started blowing up, we were looking for ways of like, all right, well, how can we elevate this to the next level? What's it going to take to make this a real hit, right? But it did take about year and a half to get that first 1 million streams. And I would say that 1 million streams is like when the tables start turning. Like the algorithm doesn't even start till 1 million streams. I
Mm.
think a lot of people underestimate that. Like, not everything is an overnight TikTok success. Most songs are going to have some time to get to like that first million streams. And then
Mm.
the next, 9 million streams to get to 10 million, it might be easier than the first 1 million because
Yeah.
the algorithm's going to start carrying you after a million.
And it's exponential, yeah. And what were you doing to
Right.
promote it to get it to even to that 1 million? Were you doing anything, or did it happen organically just via the SoundCloud platform? What's happening?
Yeah, nothing. It happened organically via SoundCloud. I mean, one of the early mover advantages being early on SoundCloud helped. But I want to focus on what really blew the song up. The real reason Jordan Belfort is the hit it is today is because of the story connected to it. When a song is more than just a feeling or more than just an emotion or more than just a party, if there's a story connected to a song, that can take a song to heights beyond whatever you can imagine, right? Because
Yeah.
let me give you an example that everybody knows. You know, Jimmy from Degrassi, the guy in the wheelchair, the guy who was on TV in a wheelchair, and now he's a big rapper. And when Drake first came out, all people would talk about is this guy Jimmy. He thinks he can just get up out of his Degrassi wheelchair and become a big rapper. I mean, when you think of almost any success story of an artist, there's usually some kind of story behind it that's more than just the music. It's something for people to talk about. And whether
Mm.
people are talking shit or whether people are praising the artist for something good they did, it's the story that goes with it. And so what I think really blew up Jordan Belfort is the idea of the Wolf of Wall Street, the story of Jordan Belfort. And the reason it took years to blow up is because when the song came out, nobody knew the story. Simple as that. Nobody heard of Jordan Belfort unless you were on Wall Street. Unless you were a stocks trader, you had no idea who Jordan Belfort was. But give it a year or 2 years, and the movie becomes a cult classic film that everybody loves, especially young men and women, but especially young men love the song. So once the story spread, the song became relevant.
I see.
And that's what helped the song blow up. So that's something
Mm.
that I'm intimately aware of. And I try to craft my music around stories, right? And that's what I did with Crypto Rich. And we can get to that a little bit later. But I think when you have something beyond the song, beyond the music, a story that goes with it, it can really capture an audience. And then people will sometimes will tell the story before hearing the music. And it doesn't matter. Sometimes you hear the music and then you get the story. Sometimes you hear the story and then you get the music. But I can remember so many times where I heard some rumors about an artist probably before I heard their music, or at least before I heard a few of their songs. Maybe you hear one song by them, you're like, who's that? And then someone tells you some crazy story about how they've been involved in some crazy relationships and they had a hard life or they got screwed over or they had an amazing life and something went really right for them. But either way you look at it, there's always a story with that artistry.
Yeah. No, that's a great point, and that's something I definitely see from your songs, how they just amplify a great message. Like, for example, how you started this podcast singing GM, 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 which is one of your songs. Can you tell us about how that led to your label experience and the lessons you learned from that?
Yeah, so song was blowing up. We started getting attention from labels. And at the time, there was no, like I said, there was no example of an artist who had become a superstar from the internet, except a handful, right? But now it's not like now. Now you can look at TikTok or SoundCloud, and countless artists have made an entire career off that
Yeah.
stuff.
Now it's more important than live, I'd say, actually.
Right. So we know that it is known, it is a fact. But back then, it was a lot more up in the air. It was like, there's a couple artists who have made it big from this, but the labels were very effective in convincing me that I needed a label. And the same is true right now. If you go
Yeah.
ask 90% of artists, they probably think they need a label. And then
Yeah.
the other part of it is, even if they don't think they need a label, once they have a song blowing up and the label starts calling, those motherfuckers know what to say. They know what to say. They're convincing. They'll call you up. Well, we're going to make you a star. You're going to need a label. Who's going to manage your tour? Who's going to do this? Who's going to do this? They promise. They make big promises. But I just had the experience of over promising, under delivering. So it was great. We got to deal with a label. I got to go to New York and take a picture in their office and flex and show everyone I had this big label deal. And they promised us the world. And they did a few things for us. You know, they flew us out to LA, put us up in Hollywood. You know, they're very good at giving you that experience that the new artist is looking for and thinks, oh, wow, this is awesome, right? Flying out to LA, Hollywood, working with some cool people. But the whole time they're tagging that on to your bill. You don't even, at the time, I mean, you don't even know it. I mean, as an upcoming artist, you either don't really know it, or like me, I would say maybe I knew, but I was under the assumption of like, things are going great. They're going to help me make a lot more money. You know, none of this is all not going to matter, because you have that going, you know, concern of we're going to keep it going, right? We're going to make more money. But
Dill, quick, can I ask as well? I'm hoping you got an advance with that deal at least, but also for people who don't know, like when you sign a big record deal, like what cut are you giving in return for signing a deal to a big label? Like what percentage?
So first of all, our deal was 82-18, meaning me and my partner split only 18% of the song.
Wow.
Which is very low, extremely low, before we owned 100%. And so it was 82-18, plus they give you an advance. Okay, so we got an advance of about $30,000, plus they give you a marketing budget. Now,
Only
what a marketing budget
as well. Wow.
Yeah, which in hindsight, it sounds like a decent advance, but in hindsight, it was nothing.
It's not. Yeah.
And I'll explain how they thought of it and why to them it was an easy business decision to pay us 30 grand. But then on top of that, you get a marketing budget, which is very similar to an advance in the sense that you have to pay back all of it. It's not really money they're giving you. It's money they're loaning you. The difference between an advance and a marketing budget is that in the marketing budget, they get to decide how the money is spent. So in an advance, they give you the money. You can do whatever you want with it. With a marketing budget, will typically be higher than an advance. Now, why do they want it to be higher than advance? Other than the, surface idea of, oh, we're going to help you with marketing. Guess what? Every marketing dollar goes to a friend of the label. So if I'm the label, I go out and I sign a bunch of artists, radio stations, blah, blah, blah. And I say, we're going to get you business. And then I go sign an artist and I say, we're going to give you a marketing budget. And then what do? You just play ring around the rosy with the money. You take it from the artist, you give it to someone else in your network. At the end of the day, the label isn't really even spending money. They're really just moving money around and sending it to their friends. So what you have to realize about the label is their job is to give business to people that are under their umbrella. So anyway, you get a marketing budget, you get an advance, the label gets to decide how a lot of the money is spent. And as the artist, if the label did a good job, they're going to want you to trust them and believe them and let them spend the money however they want, right? So that's kind of their goal. But yeah, the way that the label looked at it is they saw what we had done with Jordan Belfort, the song. They saw our music video. And we actually made the music video independently. We went down to Miami with very little resources and people knew the song. So we had an amazing time making the music video. I could go on a whole story tangent about that. But basically, we didn't spend a lot of money. We went down to Miami. We came back with an amazing music video because people actually knew the song and people actually knew the story of Jordan Belfort, especially, rich old Wall Street guys. So we had someone let us use his mansion. We had someone let us use a yacht. I mean, everything you see in the Jordan Belfort music video, we got for free. And it had a lot to do with the fact that these old rich guys knew who Jordan Belfort was, right? And they wanted to support it. So all that aside, if I was the label and I saw the Jordan Belfort music video, I'd say, you know what? If we were going to greenlight this video, it would cost us at least $30K, probably more. I think you could make a case for the Jordan Belfort music video looking like a $50,000 budget. I mean, we have a 100-foot yacht. We have a mansion. We have a Lambo. We have hundreds of people in the video. And they all came because they liked the song. They wanted to party. They wanted to support. But if you're a label and you look at this type of video, it's easy to say, okay, this looks like it would be a $30,000, $50,000 budget. So I'm sure behind closed doors, the label said, you know what? Let's give these kids a shot. Worst case scenario, we're buying this music video for a $30K advance, and let's see how it does. So now I realize that because I understand the business of music now, I realized that to the label, they probably looked at the video and said, oh, this is easy because the video itself looks like a budget of $30K. We couldn't recreate this. If we gave these guys a $30K budget, they couldn't recreate it with $30K. So to them, it was an easy decision. And they're right about that. If you gave me $30,000 right now, it would be a lot of freaking work to make a high quality video like Jordan Belfort.
Yeah.
So to me, that's how they thought about it. And now with my years of knowledge and experience in the music industry, I can accurately understand that. But keep in mind that at the time, it's their job to convince you that you're getting a good deal. So it's easy to say it now in hindsight. It's harder when you're talking to real people and they're calling you up and they're trying to convince you of something.
Yeah, it's easy to feed on artists' hopes and fears. And also, I think it's worth noting as well. It's like it's not exactly like they gave you 30 grand. It's like your own 30 grand that needs to be recouped in the future, isn't it?
Right. Let me tell you something about that I've said before. I think you'll like this one. Maybe something you could use. You watch Shark Tank, right?
I have done, yeah.
Okay. So the worst deal on Shark Tank is better by miles than the record label deal. Imagine if you went on Shark Tank and you said, all right, I have a great product here and we want to go out and we want to sell it. And then the shark says to you, okay, I'll give you a $30,000 advance as a loan and I get 100% of revenue until you pay it back. You'd be like, oh my God,
82.
mind blown. That's terrible. We can't do that, right? The worst deal on Shark Tank, the worst possible deal on Shark Tank probably has like a 10% royalty. So if you hear Kevin offer a shark deal, he's going to say, all right, I'll give you $100,000, but I want a 10% royalty on every product sold until I get my 100 grand back, right? That's way better. That's 10 times better than a music industry deal. If you tried to say what the music industry says to artists on Shark Tank, you would get laughed out of the room. Nobody does 100% royalty until you're paid back. That's unheard of in the investing world. It's only in the music world that's heard of. And why? Because artists get screwed over. So if you need like the most pure evidence that we can come up. We're talking about Shark Tank. The show is named Shark Tank because there's supposed to be sharks who sometimes what does shark really mean? It means you're kind of ripping off a young entrepreneur. Maybe you're helping them, but let's be real. Shark kind of refers to like sort of ripping off that upcoming person. I mean, maybe ripping off is a little strong, but the point is, if you looked at a music industry deal and you put it up there with the sharkiest sharks, it's many magnitudes worse than that deal. So that's what I think of. I'm like, even Kevin on Shark Tank wouldn't offer such a bad deal. but that's standard in the music industry.
So, Dil, why don't artists just take bank loans instead? Because you'd assume that's much better, right?
I think it's the same reason entrepreneurs don't. You need collateral, you need income, you need proof for a bank loan.
Okay.
And the average artist who signs a deal is probably like young and probably doesn't understand how to do that. Like, I know now that I could have formed an LLC, started routing all of my music income that I was making off Jordan Belfort to the LLC. And then 12 months later, I could probably qualify for a business loan and go out and get $50,000 that I wouldn't have to pay back to a label at some aggressive rate, right? So I know that now. But the other side of it is, let's be realistic. The appeal of a label to a young artist is that mystery. And then we get back to that mystery. If there was no mystery, there'd be no appeal for labels. The mystery is the appeal for labels, because then labels can say, we have a platform, we have resources, we're going to show you the way to be a star, we're going to introduce you to this and this and that person. So let's be real. The appeal of the label has a lot to do with the fact that you think, and when I say you, I mean the artist. You as the artist think that the label has that special sauce.
Yeah.
That's it. It's that special sauce.
It's the history and the culture of it, isn't it? Which I guess blinds us. And I guess as well as like most artists just want to make music at the end of the day. But unfortunately, if you don't learn the ropes, that ends up being very short-lived. Dil, I have to ask you this question. Have you ever thought of jumping up on Shark Tank and proposing one of these guys to invest in you as an artist?
I would love to do that.
How would that
work? It would be awesome.
How do you make that work?
Well, I would start by creating a pitch that shows how much money I've made year over year. But it's tough. It's tough because I do not think at this time I would be super successful in securing an investment from Shark Tank. First of all, I don't even know if they allow crypto products. I would say no, because I've never seen a crypto product on there really. Maybe some integration with the blockchain, but I don't think they would allow me to go up and just say, buy my NFTs or something. But anyway, besides the point, the most important thing on Shark Tank is revenue. Like, if you're not making $100,000 in revenue and a good amount of profit year over year, then what's the point of the business? So my business is great for me as an individual, but I am trying to figure out, how do I scale this beyond me as an individual, right? So to be totally straightforward, would I go on Shark Tank? Hell yeah, why not? I'd do anything. But I don't think I have enough consistent, repeatable revenue to make a great case for a Shark Tank investment. You know, I need more. It needs more consistency. It needs more regular income. My independent music is great. It makes me some income. My NFTs are great. They make me some income. But it's too inconsistent right now. And it's heavily based on the market. You know, 2021, I was selling NFTs, making all my income from NFTs. And it was gravy, man. It was gravy. I was even putting some money away in the bank. Now it's 2024. We've been in the bear market for a couple of years. Last year, there were many times I didn't know how I was going to make my rent. There were many times I didn't know how I was going to make income. There were many times I have to sell off my crypto savings and, you know, all this crypto that I've worked hard to save up for the bull market. Well, here I am, right back where I was 5, 6, 7 years ago. I'm selling off my crypto savings just to pay the rent and keep the lights on. So
I'm in the same boat. Yeah, I feel your pain there.
So it's like, if we're being realistic, like, I love music NFTs. I have in 2021, put me on Shark Tank, man. But right now it's slow. It's slower. So I'm being realistic and saying, I don't think I would.
If it has any correlation to the Bitcoin halving, then maybe 2025 is your year to jump on Shark Tank. Let's see.
That's right, man. Hey, I hope so. I mean, I do have some great products we're bringing out, and I really believe in music NFTs. As you know, there's been a lot of drama about them lately. And it kind of
has to be controversial to make some noise.
Right. It's a little bit discouraging in some ways because I look at it, I'm like, wow, we are the same place we were in 2021. Like, people don't understand it. People don't necessarily see the vision. There's some
Yeah.
people that do, but we still have a long way to go.
Oh
And
yeah.
a lot of people are in crypto and NFTs for the pump. They don't care about the use case. So I've definitely learned, like, crypto isn't all about having the best use case. Some people actually don't want a use case. Some people see use case and they're like, I want some meme coin. I want some NFT that does nothing but sit in my wallet.
Mm,
So there's a lot of things that need to be sorted out and things to learn in the market. But as an artist, this is the thing. NFTs are one way to sell your music, right? When CDs came out, you didn't see every artist become a maxi of CDs. I'm only releasing on CD. Forget vinyl. Forget vinyl. I'm not going on vinyl. I'm not going on the radio. I'm only on CDs. So
that's
I don't
such a
think
great
it's
analogy.
right. It's not that much different. Like, NFTs are a format to release your music. Like, it's not a religion. All right. I know that's a surprise to many, but NFTs is not a religion. You don't have to pray to Satoshi Nakamoto. You don't have to be loyal to the NFT format. And now more than ever is a time when it's like, yeah, do your NFTs, sell NFTs, get people into crypto, do that, but be active on other platforms. I mean, look, we've seen people in our own community prove that. Like, let's talk about Sammy for a second. Sammy, 2023, he wasn't necessarily selling NFTs every day like he was in 2022 and 2021. But to me, he proved that going hard on TikTok and going hard on Instagram Reels is so effective, even for Web3. So maybe people aren't talking about Sammy's NFTs every day, but the
Yeah.
dude is unstoppable as long as he's growing on these
Yeah.
other sites. So, and that's
Sammy Ariaga
inspiring
we're
for
talking
me.
about, by the way.
Right. And that's inspiring for me. And I know for you, I think you were saying the same kind of thing where it's like, we need to do NFTs, but we don't need to be only NFTs. We actually need to be focused on other things too. So for me, I'm heavily interested in not just how can we keep shilling our NFTs to the community, but how can we grow as artists and allow NFTs to be just one gateway where people are buying our music.
Yes. So much alpha and wisdom there, Dill. Yeah, I've really kind of opened my mind up to releasing music on Spotify again. And I just kind of learned it's like, it's not about getting this big hit. It's more about doing much what you've done actually, where you have about 100 songs on Spotify. And instead of, I mean, you've had a great big hit anyway, which is fantastic. But the more songs you can accumulate on Spotify, the more that can give you more income, potentially passive income in the long run as well, to help you develop as an artist. But
Sure.
I really let's delve into that a little bit later. Dill, can you tell me, you just realized the label wasn't for you, wasn't the right deal. How did you end up getting out of that deal? How did that feel, that whole experience? And I mean, how did you get, that must have felt like rock bottom, right? How did you get out of that rut and keep going?
Yeah, well, let me start by saying that wasn't rock bottom. That was suffering from success. Very different, right? Like, there's good problems and bad problems. Overall, this is probably a good problem. You're suffering from success. You got a bad deal from the major label. You got a bunch of money. You got to tour around the country and perform your song, Boohoo, Cry Me a River, right? That's what anybody would say to it, right? So anyway, like, we started out getting a single song deal. So we didn't sign to like a 360 deal, and there's reasons on both sides. On our side, we were kind of aware, like, okay, at least they're not getting all of our music forever, because we were kind of aware of getting ripped off. I mean, we weren't completely ignorant.
Dill, what is a 360 deal, just for people who don't know?
Sure. A 360 deal means that they own all of your content and everything you create. And
so not
typically
just the music.
Right. So typically a 360 deal is referring to owning more than just the music. They might own your publishing. They might own the percentage of your merch sales or your ticket sales. But I would say also a 360 deal generally refers to an album deal. So it's like, you're going to make us 2 albums.
Okay.
You're going to make us 3 albums. So usually when people have a 360 deal, I would say it has to do with a certain amount of albums. We signed for an individual song, a single song deal with
brilliant.
a follow-up song.
Mm-hmm.
So we had a follow-up song tagged on there, which we ended up recording and putting out. It's called Haters.
And this was not a 360 deal.
This was not a 360 deal. This was a single song deal. And in the single song deal, they had a follow-up clause for an additional song. So they basically said, we're going to buy Jordan Belfort and we're going to buy one more of your songs. And then after that, we'll reevaluate and see how it goes, right? So we basically got a single song deal. We avoided being in that 360 deal. And we were aware that a 360 deal might be the one where you get screwed over hard. So we avoided that, which was good. And
did they push for it?
What's that?
Did they push for the 360 deal, the label?
I would say no, because we didn't have a whole catalog of music.
Okay.
They're going to push for a 360 deal if they think you have a catalog of songs that are valuable. But I would say it was mutually agreeable for us to have a single song deal, because we really only had Jordan Belfort and a couple other songs, but nothing that was maybe turning heads in terms of other songs. So I would say from both sides, the single song deal is advantageous. Now, if I had a different perspective, maybe I would have made a full album and showed them, and then they might have been interested in that album, right? It's different now. Nowadays, I could make an album in a week or 2 and it would be fire. And that shit would be good enough to show to a label, at least to show them that I have potential.
How did you create an album in 1 week?
In 1 week, I mean, we're talking like 5-6 songs, right? But I can make a song in a day that's pretty solid. So
okay.
My point being, let me just take a step back and say, at the time I did not know how to make music compared to what I know now.
Okay.
I mean, I would have had to go to the studio, work with a lot of producers, stuff like that. Now I can make high quality music myself. I know how to mix and master. But at the time, it would have been a much longer process. So anyway, I'm intimately aware now of what it would take to get certain types of deals, whatever. But point is, we sold the song to Atlantic in perpetuity. So they own the song. They still own the song. So we're not technically out of the deal, but I don't have a locked in deal with them. However, I consider, when I tell the story, I say that we're no longer working with them because they don't really contact us anymore. We're not in touch with them. I mean, imagine that. We've made them over $1 million. They don't connect with us. They don't follow up. Instead, they're just out there throwing $30,000 advance at brand new artists, hoping they're going to make $1 million off of them and then find the next new one. So that's the label machine, man. That's the label machine. They're really looking for new upcoming artists to invest in. The reason I feel that we got ripped off is because we had this huge hit song and then we had very little effort by the label to follow up or support us at all. There's big artists. There's artists out there that get more money and more support with less successful music, probably because they either match the image or they know someone at the label. Listen, I'm telling you, knowing someone at the label, they probably get more money than me as someone with a successful song. And that's just life. Like, you can cry about it if you want, but that's life. People will give money to someone they know over someone that has material success. So I started to learn that. And that's what really brought us to where we are today, where now I release music independently. I don't release through the label. I'm much more self-aware of what it takes to work with a label. So yeah, if I could do it all again, what I would do differently is I would be up the label's ass. The job of the artist is to be a nuisance for the label, to be on top of them. You have to care about your own work the most, because it doesn't matter who your label is. They're not going to care about your work as much as you. There's only one reason a label is going to care about your work as much as you. You know what it is?
No.
If they're making a bunch of money, there's one reason that the label would care about your work as much as you. And that would be if they are making millions of dollars off it. If they're making millions of dollars off it, hell, they might start to care or be more critical than you. Yeah. But 90%, 99% of artists that are at the label are not making millions of dollars. So if you want to be successful at a label, you have to be the boss. It's your responsibility to make sure the label is doing their job. I know it's
Yeah.
crazy, right? You on the surface you think, okay, the label is going to do their job because they're a big reputable company,
Yeah.
right? Wrong. You as the artist, you have to care the most because they're a big machine. And if you're not in there being the squeaky cog in the machine,
Yeah.
you're gonna fall through the cracks.
So that's your best advice to new artists, I guess. They'll be a pain in the ass.
If you're working with a label, yes. as soon as you sign the dotted line, make it your mission to annoy them and make sure not only they do what they said they're going to do, but make sure you're trying to get them to do more than what they said they're going to do. Because the terms in your agreement are the minimums, right? Keep that in mind. What they write on the paper is the minimum that they have to do for you. So my advice to an artist getting a label deal is be a pest, be annoying, be the one that's always hitting up your A&R and asking for stuff. Like don't be the one that's just focused on yourself and your music and assumes that they're going to do what you need. Like if you made a song that you love and your A&R doesn't love it, but you know it's the one, like tell them to fuck off and say, I'm not making any fucking music until you give this song real consideration. And if you don't like it, then you better give me a good explanation for why we're not putting it out. But like, I don't know. I didn't behave like that. I behaved more like, hoping that we were going to make something great collaboratively together.
Yeah.
I don't know. My experience working with the label creatively wasn't great. Like I didn't like the creative process of like being in the studio with the label and now like the A&R wants to tell you what to rap about and like you end up with just this manufactured song. And I personally prefer making what I love to make. And so if I did it again, I would probably focus more on, let's say I make 20 songs that I like and then try to find one that the label also likes, instead of hoping to make one song with the label that everyone likes, if that makes sense. So we tried to go in the studio and just make this one hit, but it probably would have been better if I just kept making music until the label liked something I made, because that would make me feel better.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
And do you think labels are still important? Do you think new artists should even sign to labels anymore, or should they just focus on just releasing music and let it flow naturally?
It's a tough question to answer. It depends what you need. If you need money, then like probably a label is going to be the simplest way to get it. And
in the short
if you're
term.
in the short term, right? If you need money in the short term and you don't like to do your own business, the label is going to be super appealing, right? And I'm not here to tell an artist don't sign to a label. I used to do that, but I've talked to enough artists and I've heard about enough situations. And just saying, oh, I'm not going to sign to a label and advising other people to do that, it's almost like a little bit of privilege. It's like if you have the ability to keep making your music without needing to sign to a label, it's like you're in a good position financially, or you're in a good position mentally, or you're very strong mentally to be able to say, I'm going to just do this myself. But do I recommend artists sign to a label? No, I don't think it should be your primary goal. Your primary goal should be to develop an audience of listeners and find a way to monetize them, whether that's through streaming, NFTs, merch sales, services, producing beats, mixing and mastering. There's a lot of ways to monetize. But yeah, find a way to make income off of music. And if you can make a steady income and you can live off of it, then probably don't sign to a label.
Right.
But
and keeping expenses low, which is why it's great that you mix and master yourself, right? So it takes a huge expense out of what you could be making.
Right. So I would say your primary goal doesn't need to be signing with a label. Your primary goal should be to make income and revenue, because the label chases income and revenue. So whether you want a label or not, If you make income, labels will be more interested.
Right.
Period.
So after your label, what were your next steps? How did you know what direction to go into? I believe you took a small step back from music. Is that right?
Yeah, I took a step back after the Jordan Belfort song tour. I went on tour. I did all kinds of stuff. And then basically I got discouraged, man. I was putting out other songs. Nothing was hitting the same sort of levels as Jordan Belfort. I was getting, a little bit of attention, but not much. And I was fed up. I was fed up with the label deal. 2, 3 years later, I realized we'd been kind of ripped off. I realized that we probably would have cleared, $1 million if I didn't sign with the label. Right. So signing with the label was a tough realization. Like, it probably is the difference between like what I make now, which is like not even a livable wage or salary, versus if I didn't sign, we probably would have made like generational wealth, or at the
Wow.
very least, we would have gotten a large portion of it. Even if it was a smaller pie, we would have done better. But yeah, then I got big into crypto at the time. So I realized, music wasn't really working out. I was fed up. I was lacking motivation for music. And at the time, I was looking for the next move. And that's when I got into crypto. The year was 2016. Ethereum was about $7. Bitcoin was under 1,000. Bitcoin was hundreds of dollars. And that's when I bought in. I put like $1,000 into Ethereum, like $1,000 into Bitcoin. And at the time, I was like 19 or 20.
Crazy.
So really, none of my other friends had money compared to like I was making a little bit. I wasn't making anything crazy. But yeah, one of my buddies called me up and told me about Ethereum, and he had called me because I was making a little money. So I put in $1,000, whatever. And that's kind of where my crypto journey started. And it led me down this road to making crypto rich.
Incredible. So tell us about the journey releasing Crypto Rich. How did you make it? How did you record it? And what was the response of Crypto Rich when it came out? Because I imagine there's still a lot of, there's controversy about it today. To this day, it must have been even more controversial back in 2016. And I imagine not many songs were coming out about crypto back then either, right?
I worked in crypto for a few years. I started my company, Advantage Blockchain, and out of Philly. And during that time, I really wasn't focused on crypto, or I'm sorry, I wasn't focused on music at all. I was taking a break from music. And so after a few years in crypto, I had some moderate success, and I sort of decided, all right, this is cool, but I'm passionate about music. I have a platform. I want to do something special because I have this huge opportunity. I have millions of monthly listeners and streams, and most people will never get that opportunity. So I have to put out some music. I need to keep going with music. So eventually I decided that, and I went to start making some music, and I had this idea, let me tell my story, what I've been doing for the last couple of years. Let's talk about crypto. And then at some point the title came to me, and I was like, Crypto Rich. That's it. That's the title. That is, and regardless of what people want to say now, when you get into crypto, your thought is crypto can make me rich. I love the technology use case of blockchain, but I'll tell you what, everybody who ever bought some Bitcoin or bought some Ethereum, somewhere in there, you're hoping that crypto can make you rich. And I'll say that as a blanket statement. Everybody's had that thought. You could talk about you're here for the art. You could talk about you're here for the tech, but you're lying if you said you never had the thought to get crypto rich. So I knew crypto rich was something special, just the concept. And, some people might get the wrong idea of what it means, but crypto rich is a story. Crypto rich is a journey, a vision, and it's really meant to inspire people and show them the potential of crypto. Not, oh, hey, come be an asshole because you're crypto rich, or, just be crypto rich and tell everyone else to fuck off type of thing. It's not that. It's really about the inspiration and the journey with crypto. But when Crypto Rich first came out in 2016, it was the first album to really tell a story about crypto through music. It was really the first body of work to be rapping about the stories of cryptos. There's a few other instrumental things, maybe a song or two, singles about some crypto topic. But this was the first full body of work to tell a crypto related story. And at the time, I put it out and nobody cared. Simple as that. Nobody cared. Nobody wanted to hear music related to crypto. My people from Jordan Belfort and my other music, they didn't know shit about crypto. They didn't know anything about crypto. They might be people who like the Wolf of Wall Street movie, but guess what? That subset of people is a lot bigger than people who know about crypto. So, yeah, at first it was a big nothing burger, I would say. You know, nobody really received it extremely well. I didn't get any kind of critical acclaim. I did my best to push it and promote it and make videos and do whatever I could, but there was very little support for it, especially from an ideological side. Like back then, there was no ideological support. You have that now because NFTs have come out and there's a community around it, but there was no community then. What I was trying to do is to get this album in front of crypto people. And that was a struggle in and of itself just to get it in front of crypto people at all. But then also, once I got it in front of crypto people, there were a lot of people who didn't like the style of music, didn't vibe with the concept, didn't care about music about crypto. It just seems kind of irrelevant to a lot of people.
It's a really small niche.
Yeah, they didn't know me and they didn't care. And I had some people that would hear it and would like it and whatever. I had a small core audience, but yeah, it wasn't well received or anything like that. Like, think about this. It wasn't until 2020, which is like 4 years later, that NFTs started cropping up and there was some interest for art in crypto. Like before 2020, nobody cared about art in crypto. Like people would tell me, oh, do a social token called Dillcoin or release your music as NFT. And I was just kind of like, who's going to buy that? Like everyone wants to buy these technology focused, decentralized protocols. Nobody was buying music. So it probably took 3 or 4 years before there was genuine interest in art and crypto. So I released Crypto Rich in 2019, right? So when I first started in 2016, there was zero interest for music in the crypto space. But you know, by some years later is when people started to get more interested. And even on the release in 2019, it still had another year or two before it was really received well.
Wow, incredible. So I guess it's almost been you've been so ahead of your time, Dill, that it's almost been a disadvantage at times because it's been too early. But
I think I'm dealing with that now too. I think I'm still dealing with that issue. Yeah.
But if anything, Dill, that's so inspiring, especially as an artist, because in the music industry, we're led to believe if you release something and it doesn't pop instantly, it's a failure. And if anything, you've shown that is not true, that it still has longevity and it still has a chance to grow and have its live to its full potential in the long run, as long as you keep pushing and stay consistent. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, it is. People think that everything happens overnight. That's definitely not true. I know that to be not true.
So tell me about how you started, learning about NFTs. How did you stay updated with what was going on in the Web3 space? Because I think that's definitely something that people don't know about. How do you stay educated about that? And how do you end up learning about NFTs and then learning that, oh shit, you can release your music as NFTs, and how you kind of found the right strategy to develop that?
Yeah, I mean, I just started coming into the NFT space and learning and figuring out the best ways to release my music. And it really started when I heard about the CryptoPunks and the Bored Apes, and I started to see what they were doing.
Where did you hear this, though? What platform were you using to hear this?
At the time, it was Twitter and Clubhouse. First because Twitter Spaces wasn't out yet. So you'd see people tweeting about it, and then people would talk about it on Clubhouse.
And this is 2020.
Right. This is like 2020. And I
Okay.
started to learn about NFTs, and I started to learn about CryptoPunks, and I started to learn about Bored Apes. And I said, okay, this is actual art doing numbers in crypto. Like, this is where it's at. So once I started to learn about that stuff, that's when I realized, okay, we can probably sell music in this market. And I saw what Bored Apes were doing with utility and community. And that's when I started to realize that, maybe music in Web3 wouldn't be about rights management, and it wouldn't just be about splitting things on chain. And because one thing I want to explain, the idea that you could split your royalties on chain or split masters on chain is very obvious. I know
Yeah.
from the outside perspective, like if you're not into blockchain, you hear about that and it sounds like such a game changer. But if you're in blockchain, the idea of splitting royalties on chain has been around way before what the current NFT meta is. So for me, it was actually a learning process to say, hey, maybe we can have this kind of membership community related tokens instead of just focusing on some kind of revenue sharing thing. And so I know that a lot of people just coming into Web3 for the first time, they're seeing NFTs and whatever. So when they hear about revenue sharing, they're like, oh my God, that sounds amazing. But the concept of revenue sharing has some issues with it. And it's a little bit gimmicky in some ways. And the payout is so low for artists. So this has been around for a long time, but didn't seem super realistic. But when NFTs started cropping up and being more about community and utility, that was different than what I expected personally. And that's kind of what drove me to release music NFTs.
Right. And how did you tell me about your first music NFTs, the response, and any advice you have for artists who are curious about potentially releasing their music on the blockchain?
Yeah, well, I did everything wrong, basically, at first. I released on Rarible, which was like an easy way to make an NFT. It worked for me, but it wasn't good. I should have released on a custom contract. Then I switched to OpenSea because I wanted to be on the OpenSea storefront. And that also wasn't a smart move because I didn't build it with the custom contracts. So I got in too early. I mean, I think I was there too early and I didn't make my own custom contract. And
Why is that
led
important, Dill, to have your own custom contract?
It's like owning your own platform, basically.
Okay.
You get to own your IP on the blockchain. You're not subject to someone else's platforms and risks and rules. But I didn't have a dev team or anyone to support me at the time. So I did things my own way that I knew how. And yeah, it made it tougher in the long run because I had to switch then to other platforms. But yeah, I mean, nowadays there's a lot of ways to do it. I would say nowadays getting on Sound XYZ is a good way to start making some sales and working towards having your own platform or doing your own custom contract.
How do you create your own custom contract? How did you do it? How do you find a developer to do that? How do you find the right person and the right trusted person? Lead us through that.
It's tough. It's tough. You got to find someone you believe in that believes in you. You got to find the right team. You might have to pay, probably going to have to pay at this point. But you could also do something like Manifold. Manifold is a great site that you can use that a lot of people use to mint, launch my NFT. So there's ways that you can do a custom contract
with your own
yourself.
contract, right?
Yeah, but it's tough. There's not an easy answer to that question. If you can afford a dev, build your own contract. If you can't, maybe do Manifold or something.
How did you find your own dev?
Found my own dev. Well, now it's through connections that I made through the community and stuff like that.
Okay, so on Twitter Spaces. Another thing that I love that you've done, and which is very unique actually in the space deal, is you expanding with releasing your work on multiple blockchains. What's your strategy behind that, and how's your experience been with releasing on every blockchain that you've released on so far?
Yeah, it's been good. I think being on multiple blockchains can be positive for the artist, just more places to sell, more ways for people to buy, which is great. And I do think the future is going to be multi-chain, but yeah, you also have to just consider which blockchains are going to work together, which collections you want to focus on. So I think there's a lot of ways you can experiment with the technology, but there's also some value to sort of focusing on one main blockchain or ecosystem. Like, for example, for me, I'm focused mostly on Ethereum,
Mm.
which is where most of our utility and stuff like that is. So, yeah, we stay active on multiple blockchains. And I recommend artists, try that, try multiple blockchains.
What other blockchains would you recommend?
I would recommend, of course, Ethereum. Solana's hot right now. I've been successful on Tezos. For Sound XYZ, you have Optimism, which is popular. I'm using that as well. So, yeah, those are some of the ones I would recommend. But I think ETH is always going to be a winner and a good one to focus on.
Fair. Yeah, I'd advocate to that too. And Dill, tell us about your Dill VIP partner program. What is it about, and what other utilities do you offer with to collectors?
Yeah, I think utility is really important. When my people collect, they get access to my community. They get access to my shows. They get access to what we do on live streaming, on Twitter Spaces and stuff. And if you buy enough, if you buy 10 million Dill coin, or if you buy a Dill VIP NFT, I actually partner with you and your project, whether you're a musician or you're a project building in Web3, building NFTs or a cryptocurrency or a meme coin. I will actually partner with you and help you with things from advisory to marketing and promotion. And what I require is a membership to Dill VIP. So for those that are looking for a partnership to support their growth and help them in Web3, or even just an advisor to help them with music or help them with their project, that's something that I offer through NFTs. So I think NFTs in general should include utility and be something more than just a token or a song on the blockchain. Think about what the fans actually want and the fans actually enjoy, and offer that to the community.
And what do you think your fans want and enjoy from your work?
So I think there's two sides to it. You have the fan side, which I would call B2C, business to customer, right? That's where you're selling your products directly to people who are buying because they love the music. They want to come to shows. They want to support you. They want to come to your spaces and hear you sing. And they're just there purely to support you and support the music and have a good experience, and probably to invest in you and believe in you, right? But it's more about the customer side. There's someone who's a fan of your music. Now, I also sell to people that is more like B2B, business to business, which is me selling to someone else who's a project founder or a community leader or somebody who actually sees value in the VIP partner program to get value from what we're building here for our VIP partners. So I consider them to be different types of customers. If I'm helping someone with advisory and marketing on their project, it's more like a business to business sale. So when I'm making higher ticket sales for like 1 or 2 ETH, that's happening because I'm supporting that person in some way. And I mean, there's a case to be made for the fine art side where someone should buy your song for 1 or 2 ETH just because it's a piece of fine art or whatever. But I believe in utility, man. I mean, I think fine art is dope. And I think that adding utility gives my NFTs additional value to help elevate them to that level of fine art. That's how I think it works. But everybody has their own opinion. But the way I see it is that we develop a price and a trading history and value based on what we provide for those holders. So I think it's important to have some kind of use case and utility.
Love it. And Dill, something I'm really excited to delve into is the Dill token. You mentioned it a little bit earlier that people were saying, oh, you need to create a Dill token. Now you have, and I don't know any other artist who's doing that in the same way in the music space. What inspired you to do that? How do you make it work? How do you make it sustainable? I'm so excited to learn more about this.
Yeah, man. Well, it's the curse of being too early. I made a token for my music. It's called Dill Coin. It's a social currency. It's an amazing system to create rewards for our community as the music grows on Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and all streaming sites. So basically, Dill is a token that allows you to own a piece of our community, gets you access to our community through holding 1 million Dill, which is equal to an NFT collector, or holding 10 million Dill, which is equal to a VIP partnership. So we basically have two levels of access or status in our community. There's collector, and then there's VIP.
I
And
see.
so Dill is a new way to get into our collector or VIP group. Now, that being said, Dill is also a way where you can buy into my music in any amount you want, whether you want to put in zero point zero 0.01 Ethereum to try it out, or you want to put in one ETH and just ape in to the collection completely, right? So yeah, Dill coin is dope from the side that people can buy in, support it. It's on Uniswap. So I'm actually the only musician that's selling on Uniswap right now, which is pretty crazy to think about because Uniswap is probably the biggest trading site for crypto. It's bigger than
Yeah.
OpenSea. It's bigger than NFTs. Yet I'm the only musician selling my product on there. It's pretty crazy. A lot of people are familiar with that site, and I've experienced a lot of people buying in to Dillcoin who otherwise would not have bought into music in any way. So I think it's a great way to expand your market and open up to a new community. Now, what does Dillcoin do? What is it for? So we are creating a system where Dillcoin is used to incentivize people to stream my music. So what does that mean for the listener? It means when you go out and play a Dill song on Spotify or you go watch a Dill YouTube video, you know that you're helping to generate Dillcoin and earn Dillcoin for your wallet. So what it does is it creates a system where the listener and the audience and the supporter, right? You have to hold a Dill NFT. You have to hold some Dill coin in order to be a part of this. But once you hold Dill coin or Dill NFTs, you know that playing the music on Spotify or YouTube or Apple Music is actually going back to generating more Dill coin for your wallet. So it's basically a system that allows rewards for our community when they go stream in Web2 streaming like Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. So I'm tying together Web2 and Web3 because I truly believe that Web3 artists need to find their core fan base. And from our core fan base in Web3, we should be blowing up the music in Web2 so we can go viral on Spotify or we can go viral on YouTube. Because in my opinion, that's what's going to bring a lot of people to the music and to the space. So with Dillcoin, we're creating an app where you can go on and see the different streams and see the different rewards. The whole system is permissionless, meaning we don't need an integration with Spotify. We don't need an integration with YouTube or SoundCloud or TikTok. Would we like to have one? Sure, that would be awesome one day. But we're pulling all the data from the distributor. So the data that artists get, that I get as an artist from the distributor, is the data that we're using for Dillcoin. And any artist has access to that.
How do you then liaise that to Dillcoin? I'm trying to get my head around this.
Yeah, so basically you take the total number of streams, the total growth of the music, right? And then we have to create an algorithm which determines how many amount of streams gives how much Dillcoin, right? And then that gets distributed to all our holders based on the amount of streams. So it's a group effort. It's not a one-to-one thing. It's not incentivizing someone to go play Dill GM on loop all day because they think they're going to get rich. That's not the point. The point is to incentivize people to help the music grow. So actually, you're better off sending the song to 10 friends instead of just playing it yourself all day. That's actually going to help you to earn more. So currently, it's not a one-to-one thing. It's not tracking your streams one-on-one, but we're working on some use cases like that. So in the Dill app, we're looking to have a section where you can actually listen and earn a little bit of Dill for your time sitting there listening. But overall, this is a group effort where you're incentivized to help grow the music in the best way possible. But yeah, it's a way for you to earn. And the more Dill coin you hold or the more Dill NFTs you hold, the more incentive that you have to go make that music successful. So that's really what it is. It's a reward system that connects Web 2 to Web 3. So instead of just saying, hey, go stream my music so that my NFTs are worth more, you say, hey, go stream my music. You're going to earn Dill coin for your streaming and for your support, and your NFTs should be worth more. So it's really a way to combine Web 2 and Web 3 together even more.
Incredible, man. This is blowing my mind right now. Still trying to get my head around it. Why does sharing the music, why is sharing the music to friends better than you just playing your song GM on repeat, for example? Surely it's better that more people listen to it, of course, but surely if you listen to it more, that's going to earn more Dill coin as a whole for the whole community, no? as well.
It may. I mean, it may. I mean, if you're really just looping the song all day. But I mean, the theory would be that if you can get 10 or 100 people to listen to the song, maybe they listen to it a couple times a day. I mean, the long term effect of that's going to be greater than just you listening. That being said, I mean, sure, you can loop the song all day. Sometimes I have people that do that, right? But generally, that's not the idea.
That's not the idea, yeah.
You're not going to earn yourself enough money for that to be worth it. So although it wouldn't hurt, you're not going to earn yourself enough money to just want to loop it all day. Now, if you want to loop it all day because you love me and you want to help me and you want to loop it all day just for fun, then by all means, go ahead and loop it all day. But the general idea is that we're not incentivizing people to farm streams, which is actually against the Spotify terms of service. So we can chalk it up to that if we want. Like, I'm not trying to break Spotify terms of service by getting people to farm streams. I'm trying to get people to have some kind of financial incentive to go out and share the music and show your friends. And if people want to farm streams, they're going to farm streams. But that's not going to earn the individual enough money to game the system. Let's put it that way. You're not going to be able to game the system by going and farming streams, which is a good thing. Maybe for some people they want to game the system and farm streams. But I think it's generally a good thing that people won't be incentivized to go out and farm streams and try to steal all the money.
I have so many questions about this. Why you said creating Dealcoin allowed people the opportunity to buy Dealcoin who would not otherwise buy your music NFT. Why is that?
So a lot of people are just into crypto coins. A lot of people do not buy NFTs. They don't want to go on OpenSea and buy an NFT. They don't want to buy a JPEG of a song or of anything. But they use crypto and they're active in meme coins and crypto projects. And whether or not we might realize it, over 50%, way over 50%, probably like 70 or 80% of the money that gets traded in crypto is on Uniswap, not OpenSea. Yeah. So think about that. You're opening yourself up to a huge market of people who probably wouldn't buy your stuff on OpenSea. And on top of that, there's just more money. People are putting more money into coins than they are into NFTs overall. Right. So what might be selling an NFT for, 1 ETH might be someone putting 5 ETH or 10 ETH into your coin. I mean, it's possible to have someone put 5 or 10 ETH into your coin. To be real, it's almost unheard of to sell a music NFT for 5 or 10 ETH. I don't know really anyone that did that except for, fine art perspective, if you want to go with that.
My next question was, how do you make sure Dealcoin has value? It's great that you've done due diligence and you've really looked through all this stuff, and especially with the Spotify terms and conditions with the farming. How do you make sure, what's your best advice if an artist wants to create their own coin? Would you advise that? And how do you make sure it keeps value? Because that's the most fundamental thing. It's like you can't just drop one and hope it goes to a million. You've got to make sure you're giving a lot to make sure there is some value behind this token. How are you doing that?
Yeah, I mean, it's the same as NFTs in the sense that, first of all, you need to provide some value. I mean, second of all, you need to get more people buying it, right? So you're going to have to provide value that people want and then find a way to bring in new buyers. And it shares that same quality with NFTs, I think. So ultimately, it's just another product that people are buying in if they believe in my music. It's very similar to having your music on a different blockchain, except it's the same blockchain. It's a different marketplace. It's a different market crowd. It's a different appeal. It feels like having your music on a different blockchain. The difference is it's not a different blockchain. You're saying, hey, buy my music with ETH as a coin. So also, I think having the different collector and VIP levels is really important. 1 million DIL for collector, 10 million DIL for VIP. It creates a clear use case. It provides a way for people to buy in and be a part of your community that works similarly to NFTs. But I would say it shares the same exact qualities of keeping an NFT valuable. You need to bring more people in, above all else, bring more buyers, and you need to provide value so that people actually want to buy.
Right. So if I'm brand new to Web3 Dill, I'm a huge fan of yours, which I am, and I want to either buy an NFT of yours or Dill coin, which would you advise?
That's a good question. I would say buy Dill coin now because Dill coin's a bit undervalued. And we're also working on some upgrades for the Dill NFTs. So definitely right now, Dill coin. But the key to answer this question is to realize that the values go back and forth. So there's time when right now, the cheapest way to get Dill VIP is to buy 10 million Dill. But with a few more buyers, then all of a sudden the NFTs become the most affordable way to access the community. So we've seen this happen already a couple times. So for example, when you're entering the community, you might look at what's cheaper, a Dill NFT or 1 million Dill.
Okay.
Right? If you're looking at becoming a VIP, you're going to look at what's cheaper, to buy a VIP NFT or buy 10 million Dill. Now, that's not going to be your only consideration. Some people don't want an NFT. They don't want it at all. They might spend more to have Dill coin because they say, well, at least with this Dill coin, I can sell half of it if I want out, or I can sell all of it. So there's a big difference between a coin and an NFT, which is liquidity. A coin can be sold instantly for Ethereum. A VIP NFT is very tough to sell. It's not every day that I have someone come along willing to pay 1 or 2 ETH. But with a coin, as soon as you buy and hold that coin, the ETH is already there. So I think a lot of NFT artists don't even understand this. They just kind of go off what they hear on the streets. Oh, coins are scammy. I don't like coins because I'm going to get scammed.
Yeah.
But the truth is, coins actually have real Ethereum behind them, and NFTs do not. And so in many ways, coins can be a little better for holders than an NFT. But I mean, we could go on about that all day. But I think a lot of musicians and artists in general don't understand coins. But what I realized as a crypto investor and an artist is the coin can be way better than an NFT in some ways. So everybody holding Dill coin, if they need some Ethereum today, they can go sell it. The same is not true for any NFT, unless you're a Bored Ape or a punk.
Yeah. You can trade your coin instantly. Whereas with NFTs, you've got to make sure you have a buyer for that.
Right.
But I guess the downside is like, I love your music. I want to be able to hold a piece of your music. I can't do that with Dillcoin, right?
Right. But once we have the app, you're going to see how it connects to the music there. It's going to feel connected to the music more. Plus, the ideal situation is to hold Dillcoin and a Dill NFT. Like they work together. And your Dill NFTs are actually the Dill coin miners, which are generating more Dill long term. So I would say the ideal situation is to hold both. Hold the NFT so you can have the music, have the song, and then also hold the coin so that you can have a piece of that ecosystem too. But yeah, I would say the ideal situation is to hold a little bit of both. But some people might just choose to hold a Dill NFT and then a tiny bit of the coin. Or the reverse. They might choose to hold a little bit of Dill NFT, like one, and then hold a lot of the coin. So it's to each their own.
What's tell us about if you're willing to share, tell us about the process of creating your own token, your own coin. Is it similar to creating an NFT? Do you need to work with your own developer for that? How does that work?
Yeah, it's been a tough process, man. I originally worked with a platform called Third Web, which basically went under, and we had to rebuild everything from scratch.
Wow.
And it's been a lot of hard work, man. It's been a lot of hard work rebuilding Dillcoin. And a lot of people don't understand it still. We're very early. So I'm feeling like I'm having that being too early, the curse of being too early. But I know what we have is a great idea, and it's really innovative. And I think it's going to change the music industry. But I've also found I'm pretty early to concepts. People don't understand them. Sometimes I feel like I'm not supported by certain groups in music, NFTs or whatever. And this is no different because now I've created something that's not a music NFT. And so I think a lot of people who are really into music NFTs, they don't want to acknowledge this or get into it because it's not in alignment with something they're currently doing right now. So that's one of the tough parts about being early too, is like there's very little support if other people aren't doing what you're doing. And then there's more support when other people are doing what you're doing, but it's also more saturated and it's harder to get people involved. So
Better too early than too late, right?
yeah, I guess it's better to be too early than too late. But on some level, I feel like being too early has been tough because I'm early. I put a framework out there, and then a later crowd comes along and does it and has all kinds of support behind them. And sometimes I feel like I get a little bit left out in those situations because the people who did it later, they want to be the star of the show, right? So people don't always like the fact that I have this narrative of being doing it for a while. Now some people are very supportive and all that, but yeah, I've felt like I haven't always been super accepted in certain groups in music NFTs, but that's how it is. You're not gonna be in every group out there. But
Yeah.
yeah, I do feel like I'm too early sometimes, and launching Dillcoin has definitely been tough. And you definitely need a dev, and you need to do things the right way. So it's a
Is
lot
it
of
the
work.
same as an NFT?
No, it's different than an NFT, I would say. You
Okay.
can use the same type of dev, but the launch process is quite different.
We're going to come to a close soon. Can you share a bit more about what's next for you? What's you were mentioning this app, which is going to give a lot more use case to Dillcoin. Excited to hear more about that. Maybe any future drops. What are your release plans this year? Are you releasing a lot more music this year? What's going on?
Yeah, man. Well, I'm working on a lot of different stuff. Let me see if I can pull up a screenshot of the Dill app here so that I can show you a
All right.
little preview of what's coming because it's going to be really cool. I think it's going to change the game a bit here for what's possible with crypto. I would love for more people to see it and more people within music to support it. Like I said, I still feel like a lot of people within music don't necessarily support this or see what I'm doing. So I'm trying to get it in front of more musicians and people that'll be relevant to. But yeah, this is the Dill DApp. It's just a start, basically showing what we can do. And how it works is that we're tracking all the data from streaming and we're taking some of this data and integrating it in here. And so you can see that we have different use cases. We're going to have a music player earning Dill, events, Dill token, NFTs, different things that we're building in here. And it's really just a dashboard for our community to show how much your potential earnings are, how much Dill coin you have, how that's relating to how much you earn. And of course, we want to eventually integrate all Spotify streaming data and everything in here live and real time.
Dill, can you read out everything so that people listening to this podcast can actually be aware of what you're showing right now?
Yeah, I'll read the basics. So really what you're seeing here is a reward system that's showing you how much the potential earnings are from Dillcoin. It shows you how much your share of the earnings are and how much you may earn from the Dillcoin based on your holdings. The goal is also to integrate data from Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, and create a dashboard that shows, hey, here's how this artist's music is growing. Here's how that relates to rewards in Dillcoin. Here's how that relates to rewards from your NFTs. And also, here's all the use cases that we have for the NFT, right? So this is also like, think of it like a utility portal. Any utilities that are included with your music NFTs can be displayed here. So as you see, we have earning Dill, music player, about Dill, discography, events, white paper, right? Merch. We want to include all the different things that are bringing value to our community. So think of it as like a dashboard for music NFTs that also incorporates this amazing element of having a coin. And the last thing I want to say is this isn't just for musicians that have a coin, right? Let's say you yourself wants to get involved with the Dill DApp. Well, we can build a dashboard for you that's a customized dashboard for your music NFT holders. It can be a utility portal, access to your community. It can show some of your top stats. For example, maybe you want to show a recent sales, or maybe you want to show your total amount of sales or your total amount of market value for your NFTs. But we are creating this app to work not just with tokens, but NFTs as well. And you don't have to have a token to use it. So my goal is to get more musicians and artists onboarded here. And if they want to release a token, they can. But you do not need a token to have this app, because it's really cool to have your own app. I mean, imagine you're a musician, your collectors can come sign in to your website. You have your own dashboard. People can see the value of their NFTs and what they're holding. They can access your music, your events, and everything in one place. So it's kind of a step up from just having a regular website to having your own app. And my goal is to get a lot of other artists onboarded here. Even if they're not using a token, they can have an app. And if they ever want to release a token, that becomes an option. So yeah, that's cool. A bit about the dApp.
Wow. So you airdrop tokens every so often then?
Exactly. Well, it's actually going to be more like a claim. But yes, we drop them the tokens. So
I see.
They might have to claim it. They'll have to pay a couple dollars to claim it. But then you decide, all right, how often are you going to claim? So you claim it whenever it becomes worthwhile.
What about new music? Have you got much coming out this year? And what are the big plans?
Yeah, man, I'm actually working on a lot of new music. It's tough to grow in Web3 right now. You know, it's been great that I launched Dillcoin. We've already had some ups and downs with Dillcoin. It's doing all right now. But yeah, I'm just trying to stay motivated, put out new music, keep grinding. You know, it's not so easy. You know, people look at what I've done with Crypto Rich or Dillcoin and think that I'm financially set or something like that. But that's far from the truth. You know, I'm still out here grinding. I feel like I'm in a similar position to where I was 5 or 6 years ago. You know, like I've sold a good amount of music NFTs and crypto, but it's not life-changing money. And it's barely even an income right now. So I'm hoping the market turns around and something changes. But as much as the dream of music NFTs and everything in Web3 is great, right now it's not really making me an income, which is a bit disappointing, but it's also just realistic. So I think music NFTs are great, but in my opinion, as someone who's an OG that's been here for years, I'm not able to make an income just off music NFTs right now. I'm still not able to. I've been trying for years. So yeah, I mean, candidly, it does make me think like, all right, I need to work on Spotify. I need to work on Reels. I need to work on something else, because it's not that easy to sell your music in Web3. So not to discourage anyone from trying, but to be realistic with people, it's tough to sell your music in Web3. It's not some easy solution to be a professional artist. It's not at all. It's tough. And even if you do have some success with it, it's still going to be tough to make a living off of it. We still need more support in Web3 music. We have a long way to go before everybody's buying music NFTs and believing in musicians to have value in their collections. So we don't really have that yet. I mean, I think that most musicians in the Web3 space are in a similar spot where they're making a little bit of money, but it's not life-changing necessarily. And you need more income streams. You just simply need more income streams than just NFTs alone.
Yeah. So what more do you think we need as artists for this to change?
Well, that's tough. I think everyone needs something different. But what I need is more grinding on Spotify, more IRL shows. I mean, for me, the hardest thing being a professional artist is just getting income. You know, if I had a consistent income, and a salary where I could just hang out and make music, everything would be gravy. But I find myself oftentimes thinking about or working on and a little bit struggling to figure out how I'm going to make that next sale or that next dollar. So that's the position I've been in for a lot of years. And, you know, I'm just grinding, hustling, putting out music, hoping that eventually it becomes a little bit more, you know, automatic and a little bit more ongoing. But yeah, it's tough being an artist. It's a lot of times you're wondering, where's that next paycheck coming from?
Yeah, feel that. And do really appreciate your frankness with that, especially coming from a true OG. I still remember when I started in the Web3 space, just really looking up to you, Dill. You were really inspiring. Literally, I think my first ever Twitter space was with you, and I got to perform a song in the same space as you, and it's been great to call you a friend now as well. And gosh, this was like 2 years ago now, which is kind of terrifying. I think this is actually
Yeah,
potentially
man.
my 2-year anniversary to this date that I played my first song on a Twitter space, actually. 17th of
Wow.
January,
Today,
actually.
this
I think
date,
so.
this
Yeah, yeah,
date.
yeah.
Wow.
I need to check to double to be sure, but I think it was, yeah. So, but yeah, man, looking back at how far you've come with 1 million plus listeners, 250 million streams, and all the touring you've done, and all the success you've had in Web3 as well, despite still kind of trying to make ends meet. How does it feel so far on your journey, and what are you the most proud of, and what are you looking to kind of keep pursuing as you keep growing from strength to strength?
Yeah, that's a good question, man. I'm proud of everything I've done. It's been great. I think I've made an impact. Sometimes I feel like I don't get the recognition I should for that impact, but that's life. I'm very happy with the quality of my music. Like my that's probably the thing that I'm most happy about. The quality of my music is great. And then on some level, I think that doesn't get fully recognized always in Web3. Because in Web3, you're selling to a lot of people who might support you and believe in you. Sometimes it's their favorite genre of music, sometimes it's not. But as an artist, I know my music has gotten to an incredible level, and I'm happy about that. And so I'm proud of the accomplishments that I made in Web3. And realistically, I just want to see this Web3 music space growing a little bit. Like, it doesn't even need to be the biggest thing in Web3. If we just went a little bit bigger and had some support from bigger people in Web3, we could all be making a living off of it.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, right now, I think we need support. We need people who are in Web3 that are collectors, that are bullish on Web3 to get behind music. And I think we're lacking that right now. I still think we're lacking that. I think a lot of people in Web3, they're not they're not interested in music, or they're not supporting it. Maybe they're interested and passionate about music. They may love music, but they don't buy from musicians in Web3.
What's going to change that?
Yeah, I think it's like a conversation. I think it's talking to more people. I think it's getting the good ideas in front of the right people. There's more support for one-on-one art and stuff like that. And I think right now, like, we just don't have any collectors that are thinking of musicians like one-on-one artists. So, like, for example, you have X Copy, right? X Copy. He's dropped on so many different platforms. His art is all over the place. He has open editions here and 101s here and collection here and there. But people buy all of his stuff religiously. People follow him, buy him, doesn't matter where he drops. We don't really have that for musicians. And I'm not sure why. I think there's a lot of great musicians and great collections, but you don't have as much value behind their work. Why that is, I'm not sure. Probably music just haven't had enough penetration in Web3.
I guess music is still valued as a free asset, and completely underrated for that reason, because of Spotify, because of piracy, and people are just expecting to get that for free. So what you're saying, Dill, is you want to see music deemed as fine art. Is that
Well, yeah,
correct?
but also I agree with what you're saying, but I don't think that's it, because it's always been free to look at like, streaming the music on Spotify is equivalent to like opening up X Copies NFT and looking at it.
I see. Yeah, that's a
So
good point.
so like it isn't the fact that you can see the art or hear the music that makes people buy it. Like, anyone can go open up X Copies NFT and look at it. Like, it needs to be the value and ownership. So I think there's more of a traditional art world where there's people out there who know about art, and art is valuable to them. But we don't have a fine art world for music. We're trying to create it. That's the difference. There's a
Let's
fine art
change
world
that.
for
Yeah.
art. There's a fine art world for art already, right now. There's people paying millions of dollars for an artwork. The same is not really true for music. Like there isn't a fine art community for music at all. So I think that's one of the reasons that you have a hard time getting people to buy and collect music, because it's so new. And I guess maybe you could say it's kind of like vinyls and stuff like that, which it is. It is like vinyls, but I guess that's just a much smaller market than fine art, right? When push comes to shove, vinyl record collecting is a lot smaller than the fine art world.
Yeah.
And it's probably comparable to Web3. Like music NFTs in Web3 is equal to vinyl art compared to fine art, or vinyl collecting compared to fine art in the real world. Because there's so many millions. Fine art is big. Vinyl collecting is relevant, but not as big. I would say the same about music in Web3. So we got a long way to go, man.
We do.
Still.
But very exciting to be a part of this and paving the way, and especially being alongside you in that endeavor. Dill, thank you so much for sharing your story. Where can listeners find your music and NFTs, and where's the best place to follow you on your journey?
Dillmusic.com. Just head to dillmusic.com. You can check out everything there. Look me up on Spotify. Look me up on social media, famous_DYL, famous Dill. Yeah, follow me over there and check out dillmusic.com.
Excellent. To everybody who tuned in, thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show and found this fruitful. Make sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time with our next guest, GN.